Hello students, I am Deepthi Santosh from St. Thomas College, Bhilai, faculty from Education Department. Today I am going to deal with B.Ed second semester paper 4 Sociological Perspectives of Education. Now here I am going to deal with the topic National and Emotional Integration. We all know that India is a land of diversities. Diversities in races, languages, religion, customs, traditions, diversities in food, dress, and so on. And the different people who came to India at different times have added to this complexity in its diversity. For example, I am talking about Aryans, Mughals, and British people. When they came and invaded India, these people added to the complexity in its diversity. And integration means combination of parts or these diversities into a whole. And unity in diversity is a motto of Indian life and culture. Though people of India from different states of India are different in their manners and way of living, they are aware of national integration. There is immense importance of national integration in our country. So 19th November is observed as National Integration Day. National Integration Day. Every year it is observed as National Integration Day, and for more awareness among the public about National Integration Day, a whole week program is implemented by Government of India from 19th to 25th of November. National integration most simply and briefly means national unity. And national integration is the awareness of a common identity amongst the citizens of country. It is a unity in diversity. It's a common identity and it's a unity in diversity. It means unifying all the forces in a country so as to give the idea of one nation. And national integration involves the sentiments of nationalism. That is the feeling of oneness, feeling of belongingness. Therefore, complete national integration cannot take place without emotional integration. So, this national integration, we will not achieve complete national integration without emotional integration. So, for national integration, there should be emotional integration. Emotional integration basically means unity of thoughts and feelings of all the citizens of the country. So it means emotional integration is unity of what? Thoughts and feelings of the people of all the citizens of a country. So by emotional integration, we mean that the integration of minds and hearts, the suppression of separatism. Here you suppress what? Separatism. So it is emotional integration. What is emotional integration? Emotional integration is unity of thoughts and feelings and separation of separatism. Emotional integration is an essential condition and basis for national integration, because sense of oneness is developed among the people of a country through training of mind and heart. In brief, we can say that perfect national integration cannot take place without emotional integration. I also want to quote our former president, Dr. Radhakrishnan, that national integration cannot be built by brick or mortar. It cannot be built by chisel and hammer, but it has to grow silently in the minds and hearts of men. So it has to grow. And the only process of growing this national integration is to grow that in the minds and hearts of the men by the process of education. So it can be grow, and that can be grown through the process of education. So national unity or integration doesn't automatically follow or happen upon living within the same geographical boundaries. If you are living in the same geographical boundary, that doesn't mean that national integration is happening over there. It is there, existent over there. No. But it happens through emotional integration. Emotional integration is necessary for this unity. Okay, so national unity will happen only through emotional unity, only to the feeling of oneness or through the feeling of belongingness. Emotional integration is the unity, identity and similarity of emotions. And if it exists, the individuals feel related to and concerned with each other. If there is emotional integration, means the people will feel related to each other. They will feel, when there is emotional integrity, people will relate it to each other and concerned for each other. They will be concerned too for each other despite any external differences. So it is external emotional integration which keeps members of the family organized. The inner unity is the basis of emotional integration. So this inner integration or the unity is the basis of Indian culture. Now, according to Emotional Integration Committee report of 1962, the attributes of national and emotional integration are as follows. What are the attributes or characteristics of emotional and national integration according to Emotional Integration Committee report? So let us talk about the attributes. What are the attributes or characteristics? Attributes or characteristics of emotional or national integration. First characteristics or attribute is a strong feeling of brotherhood and nationhood will be there. So, a strong feeling of brotherhood and nationhood will be there. This is the first attribute that ignores or sinks individuals' parochial, linguistic and religious differences. This is going to sink this type of parochial, linguistic and religious differences. The next is common mental bond that binds all the people irrespective of their differences towards their aesthetic, spiritual and material progress. That is common mental bond. The second attribute or the characteristics is common mental bond. This is the attribute of national and emotional integration. The next is, the third is creation of a feeling of oneness or positive outlook. That here is creation of feeling of oneness or positive outlook towards the welfare of the country above narrow sectarian interest. So feeling of oneness. Feeling of oneness and positive outlook. Okay. Towards what? Towards the welfare of the society above narrow sectarian interest. And third is a firm conviction. A firm conviction means a firm belief on the part of the individuals, each individual, that he is a integral component of the whole social unit. There will be a firm conviction, that the firm belief that he is a integral part of the whole social or integral part or integral component of the whole social unit. Now these are the characteristics. Now let us talk about the obstacles of national integration. Now let us talk about the obstacles of national integration. What are the obstacles of national integration? The first obstacle is communalism. First obstacle is communalism. The Now here, it is one factor that poses great danger or threat to our unity. To cite an example, I'll say example, formation of Pakistan in 1947 led to terrible communal rights. You know, large number of people lost their lives, lost their homes, and had to undergo lot of sufferings to resettle. And the British government at that time, they encouraged communalism because they loved this divide and rule policy. That is, their divide and rule policy helped them or made it easier to control our country. Till now, even now, I'll say communal rights flare up here or there many times. And why it's happening, this communal rights? Because the result of narrow-mindedness, because of prejudices, lack of knowledge of other religion. We don't accept the religion very easily. Means we don't try to understand other religion. We don't give and take respect for these religions. You know, we don't try to understand. So because of this communalism, it's a great hindrance or threat to the national or emotional integration. The second is regionalism. The second is regionalism, or it can be also called as provincialism. It springs from the same sentiments which work behind communalism, that is narrow-mindedness, prejudices and all. See, the extremely uneven economic development of different regions of India has created tensions and jealousy between the states. At times, one region or one state may be far more developed or far more resourceful or advanced than the other states. So what happens? It creates tensions and jealousy between the states. Why? As to which may get the priority in matters of new projects and industries. Who will get the priority for that? So they feel insecure for each other, and due to that, regionalism, provincialism prop up. And in the contemporary India, regionalism has spread so much that even the political unity of the country is being threatened. So it's very dangerous for national and emotional integration. The third is linguistic differences. Third obstacle is linguistic differences. What is this linguistic differences? Otherwise, you can also call it as linguism. Here, I will cite an example of Hindi being given the status of official language. During that time, many southern states objected that. They don't want to recognize it as an official language because they regard their language as the best for medium for communication, and they were not knowing this language, then it will be a very big difficulty for them to communicate. So because of this linguistic differences also, emotional or national integration is under threat. And next is, fourth one is casteism. The fourth obstacle I will talk about is casteism. Casteism is prevalent or was prevalent since long back. It's too old concept. It is great curse for our national integration or unity. Even the Harijans are still treated as a low class. Even the Shinnis and this what is called that Shias and Shinnis, I'll say, especially in Muslim community, even they have differences. And the appointments and jobs and admissions are on the basis of this caste. This is going to threaten, or this is going to hamper our national integration, because it's not based on the ability of governments, not based on the ability, but on casteism. So that is going to threaten this national integration. Then the fifth one is different political parties. Different political parties. This is also an obstacle for our national integration, because some work for national growth and national unity, but others for national disruption. They are with the concept of separating each other. So this is also a threat for our national unity. Then comes the sixth one is Economic disparity, that also act as a obstacle, that is economic disparity. Economic disparity. Now what is this economic disparity? You know, economic disparity means lot of gap between the rich and the poor. So much of economic disparity that some starve and go without food and others are rolling in wealth. And this poor people, you know, maybe may become anti-national elements because of bad economic conditions. Even they can go to any extent to disintegrate the national unity for the sake of their for the fulfillment of their basic needs. Okay, so this economic disparity is also an obstacle, stand as an obstacle for national integration. That the seventh is lack of good leadership. Lack of good leadership. See, ours is a democratic country and democracy runs well on the good leaders. We select our leaders, the citizens select their representatives, that means the leaders, to rule the country. That means they should be very sound mentally, emotionally and physically, these leaders. They should guide us properly, they should not disintegrate. So lack of good leaders also lead to difficulties in integrating nationally and emotionally. Then eighth one is frustrated youth. Frustrated youth. This frustrated youth, what happens? Why they are frustrated? They are frustrated only because of corruption or because of unemployment or uncertainty in future and all these things. So they become the country's worst enemy. So this, because of this frustrated youth, what happens? They may go to any extent to to disintegrate the national integration, disintegrate the national unity, because they are not employed, they are unemployed, they are not satisfied or happy. So because of this also it's a great threat. And the ninth one is illiteracy. Illiteracy. You know, our country has mass illiteracy, and because of this they may be misdirected very easily for negative tendencies. So it is a very dangerous situation if we have this mass illiteracy that need to be corrected, and due to this narrow-mindedness in our society is there. So they easily swayed away by some people to disintegrate our unity. Then historical background. Another portion is that historical background of a country too is responsible, or that may also stand as an obstacle in national or emotional integration. Why? To cite an example, historical background, I say partition of India and Pakistan, you know, that was on the basis of religion, and because of that still the riots happen in our country. Still our secularism is haunted because of this disparity of religion, indifferences in religious beliefs, and this division happened and partition happened because of this religious differences. So this will also stand as an obstacle for our national or emotional integration. Then cultural disparities. Cultural disparities here means cultural disparity. Cultural disparity means in our country we have very vast or varied cultures in different places. So what happens, they have contradictory to each of them, they all are, because in some places you will find matriarchal society, in some places you will find patriarchal society, in some places the woman is given very high place, in some places the woman is being tortured, or there is Sparda system also, then dowries issues, all these all comes under cultural issues, so many things. which because of this disparities, there won't be any kind of emotional integration, and that may lead to national disunity. Okay, then comes classism. Classism means on the basis of economic or social classes. Class may happen due to economic conditions, that is rich and poor, or because of your caste or social class, like because of the status you are having. So this may also bring a obstacle in, or act as an obstacle in emotional and national integration. So these are the points which I discussed about the obstacles of integration, national and emotional. Now let us discuss about the efforts at increasing emotional or forces promoting emotional and national integration. So what are the forces which are promoting national or emotional integration? We have talked about the obstacles. Let us discuss about the forces promoting factors of national and emotional integration. So let us talk about this forces. Education had been and is and will be strong instrument in framing this national and emotional integration. See, Emotional Integration Committee have given some suggestions. One of the suggestions is, some of the suggestions I am going to explain to you. That is, first is reorganization of syllabi. Reorganization of syllabi. Here, reorganization of syllabi means at primary level. There are 3 stages in your education system, that is primary, secondary and university level. So at primary level, stress should be laid upon nationalistic stories, poems, songs, etc. Then at secondary level stage, along with other basic subjects, special attention should be given to studies of national literature, social studies, moral or religious guidance should be given, and extracurricular activities where dramas, plays should be based on national issues. Then at the university level, syllabi should include social science subjects, languages, literature, culture, arts, and teachers and students should be given facilities to travel to various parts of the country, just to know the culture of other countries, also to have a cultural exchange. At the same time, they will come to know about the people of other states, places, like that. These are the reorganization of syllabi being suggested by Emotional Integration Committee. The next suggestion was encouragement to extracurricular activities. That is, encouragement to extracurricular activity. Okay, encouragement to extracurricular activity. That means such programs will develop. Why we encourage? To develop we feeling, that is feeling of unity and sympathy. And the inter-universities cultural festivals should be there, and where the teachers and students participate from all parts of the country. This inter-university cultural festivals promote for exchange of students and teachers coming into under one roof, and there will be a we feeling because of that this situations. Then next is improvement of textbooks. Next suggestion is improvement of textbooks. So improved textbooks of various subjects, especially textbook on history, should be amended or improved, should be revised. Here what they want to say. They should be designed to encourage a sense of emotional unity with people living in other parts of the country. That means it will help to check the growth of communal feeling. Means this history textbooks should help the teachers or the students to know about the country in a better way. Then next comes is the Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution. This Indian Constitution, our founding fathers, who framed the Constitution? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And our founding fathers were aware of the threats to our national unity. So what they did? Certain safeguards were placed in our constitutions, like certain ideals and principles like democracy, secularism and social equality were guaranteed in our constitution. Thus, our constitution is the most important forces that promote national integration. So, this constitution is also helping in promoting the national and emotional integration. The next is democratic setup. The fifth part is democratic setup. Democratic setup. In this democratic setup, as democratic states, all the citizens of India are under the law of the country. People cannot be discriminated against on the basis of caste, religion, language and culture. So this concept is going to help for maintaining national integration in our country. Then next is national festivals. Next is national festivals. This national festivals means Independence Day, Republic Day and this Gandhi Jayanti. So the students should be motivated to participate in it, and Indian freedom fighters should be remembered on regular basis and their anniversaries should be celebrated, and we should do more of work than giving holidays during these national festivals. Then comes next point for promoting national integration is, or the suggestion given by this Emotional Integration Committee is interdependence. Next point is of interdependence. Interdependence. Here, interdependence, we are talking about no region is self-sufficient or no region is self-reliant, because every state, if you go to every state, some states are very resourceful, some are not. If you have some resources, you may not be having other. So you have to depend on each other for some or the other resource. So these factors bind them together. For example, Punjab is giving wheat to Tamil Nadu and the Gujarat is giving cotton to Bihar. Like that, we are interdependent, and this will always make us connected. So that will help in national integration. Then the eighth is other forces like the communication system and mass media. Mass media. This communication system and mass media help in the exposure to all the culture of different regions of India. So this mass media help a lot in bringing the cultures of exposing the cultures of different regions. For example, cinemas can be used to spread these feelings, like radio and TV equally used effectively. All India corporate competitions and meetings can be organized. This way, then our national symbols. Ninth point is our national symbols. What are the national symbols? Our national symbols like national flag, national anthem, national emblem help to remind us that we are all one identity and act as strong unifying forces both in times of celebration and adversities. So these national symbols helps in act as strong unifying forces both in times of adversities and celebration too. The next is national system of education. National system of education. Here in national system of education, we must have uniform national system of pattern of education from primary to university level throughout the breadth and length of a country. Throughout the length and breadth of the country, we should have national system of education. Means the pattern should be same. Generally, what is happening? CG board is there, CBSE board is there, ICSE board. All should be changed. They want a uniform national pattern of education. Then comes the national policy of education. Then comes the national policy. National policy of education must also have uniform pattern. They must be implemented. The first is in the matter of admissions. Admissions on the basis of, the matter of admission. Admission should be based on intelligence and ability. The second on the matter of scholarships. Scholarship, national policy of education under the matter of scholarship. That too should be on the basis of ability and or financial condition of the student. If the student is very poor, scholarship should be provided, and not on the basis of caste, religion or some other reasons. Okay. Then comes migration. See, domiciliary restriction in regard to migration of students between one state to another should be immediately removed. So this will help in the movement of students from one place to another, and that will help in to remain connected with other states also. That will help in national and emotional integration. Then comes the daily assembly. That is also another part. Daily assembly. Daily assembly, a daily program should be started after the community prayer of at least 10 minutes. Means a talk either by principal or by respected person on some subject, a national subject, may encourage national and emotional integration. Then next is tours and excursions. Tours and excursions. Tours from one state to another state, if organized properly, it will acquaint the students about the other states. They can also come close to the people living in other states. At the same time, there will be some cultural exchanges. So this is going to promote emotional and national integration. Then comes the dramas and debates. Debates or dramas. These two should be organized related to national integration. This will also help in promoting our emotional and national integration. Then comes national language. We must make use of our national language, that is Hindi, as far as possible in our daily everyday life, because that will help in connecting with as many as people as possible, because maximum or major part of our country speaks Hindi. Hindi speaking people are more than the other regional languages. Then that will help in connecting the people together. Then comes the religious and moral education. Religious and moral education. Religious and moral education. Here, this religious and moral education, this actually helps in developing secularism in us, because religious and moral education helps in developing ethics in us, and that will help in safeguarding our secularist ideas. Isn't it that the feeling of brotherhood or oneness and like that? Then the adult education. Then comes the next suggestion is about the adult education. Adult education. Adult education, why? Because of this mass illiteracy, and that is going to endanger our national solidarity. So to develop national consciousness and national solidarity, we need to educate these adults. Now, what are the role of teachers in national integration? Let us talk about this too. What is the role of teachers? Role of teachers in national integration or emotional integration. Teachers plays a very effective role for both this promoting this national and emotional integration. Our teachers can make the following contributions, like the teachers are regarded as builders of the nation, or he or she influences students by her behavior, by his or her behavior, she must have national outlook. So what is the role of the teacher? She must have a national outlook. That is the first important, and she should reflect national consciousness of conduct or behavior, so that students can receive messages of national integration through her. So she should have a national outlook. Then second is, teachers should rise above petty biasness and prejudices. They should rise above petty biasness and prejudices. Petty biasness and prejudices. Why? Because she should be impartial and treat students equally, without distinction of caste, creed, or color or sex, like that. There should be no difference in saying and doing of a teacher, because she should treat equally everyone, because it's a democratic country, and students should not feel neglected under these circumstances, and so she should rise above this petty biasness and prejudices. The next is, teacher must introduce his country in his lessons. Whenever she teaches her lessons, she should introduce about her country, that is a history of a country, the cities, its rivers, its songs, its people, etc. Whenever she teaches the topics, okay, she should introduce, or she should tell about her country. Then history, civics, geography, literature, art, music should be taught from the national point of view. So everything should be connected with the characteristics of a country. Then the fourth point is, the teacher should stimulate students to read newspapers and books of non-communal nature, throwing light on the contribution of the nationalist. So they should encourage the students to read the literature or the books or newspapers related to non-communal literatures, and those on leaders or issues, leaders who have given great contributions in any kind of nationalist movements. Then teachers should inspire them for having faith and love for national language, national literature, national festivals, national symbols, and like that. So teachers should improve or inspire them for having faith and love for all these national things, that is language, literature, national festivals and all. And again, they must check the young minds from casteism, linguism, narrow-mindedness, rowdiness and hooliganism. So they should check all these things too besides this. So national integration cannot be achieved through mere legislation. That cannot be achieved through mere legislation. Regional imbalance, social inequality, inequality of education and employment opportunity should be set right if we are to remain united. So imbalances in regional imbalances, social inequality, inequality of education and employment opportunity should be set right if we are to remain united. So in spite of all the diversities in India, there is also fundamental unity. I'll conclude by the line that while her people speak with many tongues, they speak with one individual heart. I'll conclude, while her people speak with many tongues, they speak with one heart. That is emotional integration and national integration. So students, I hope you all understood this topic. So thank you.